Welcome back to another episode of Lost in the Farmer's Market Garden Shorts, where today we're going to be talking about this subject in front of you. Now yes, this is a lab video, and that's because this specimen and the next specimen are both of appropriate size for that. Now, what is this plant in front of you? Well, its scientific name is Yucca filimentosa, commonly called Adam's needle. Now, that puts it in the Asparagaceae family, which, by the way, the yucca part is from the Carvi word for manahot, aka cassava. It's due to the similar shaped tuberous roots, and so of course inevitably, if it looks like a, and it sort of looks like a, inevitably they get similar names. Now the filamentosa portion of its name comes from the fact that the leaves have filamentose fibers in them. In fact, the leaves have been used to make baskets, and actually extracting fibers can be used to make certain types of rope. So, I mean, it's an interesting plant unto itself, even if it doesn't suit your fancy. Now, Yucca filamentosa is native to the Americas, so it's a natural American plant. But it's escaped cultivation and can grow as far north as in some of the New England states, which is kind of neat for something like this. It's hardy in USDA zones 5 through 10, not bad. It's considered an evergreen perennial, which in zone 8A, which is where we are, it most certainly is. Its preferred soil pH is 5.5 to 7.5, and it prefers a dry, sandy, well-drained soil, but will tolerate other soils, but will not tolerate swampy, wet soil. Now, it prefers a full sun exposure, and that means literal full sun, all day until the sun goes down kind of sun. If you have a baked, hot, dry zone, this is your plant. Now granted, it looks like a grass, it looks almost like plastic. When it flowers, you'll understand its true value, and that's not unlike Christmas cactus in a bunch of ways. Now its height can be anywhere from this specimen's 18 inches at the moment to up to 8 feet. They get big, and that's 8 feet including the flower stalk, though there are some specimens that just keep getting taller, and so that may be 8 feet without the flower stalk. It all depends on where it's planted in the situation in question. Its width can be 2 to 6 feet. Now, why is it so wide? Well, it has the ability to create offsets with its tuberous roots. So one of this plant here, for example, I don't know if you see it, but the pot it's in is ovoid because its roots are pushing against it. Those roots will emerge nearby and have other growing tips, basically forming a small colony of what essentially looks like a bunch of plants, but is actually one really big plant. Kind of cool. Now it has a bunch of other names, including Spanish bayonet, needle palm, yucca of course, spoon leaf yucca, I don't know, that one's weird, St. Peter's palm, desert candle, and calm. I don't know why, but apparently calm was listed as one of its common names. I'm probably mispronouncing calm. It's C-O-M-M, like, oh no, the comms went out. You got me, and yes, the kids are being stabbed next door. Anyway, its flowers attract butterflies and pollinators, which is a bonus. It is immune to deer and rabbits because its spiky texture and filamentose leaves are... These kids are getting murdered. Are undesirable. A lot of people don't even like it. It tolerates drought like a boss, and with time, as I mentioned, its tuberous roots will form a small but dense colony, which can be a problem because inevitably birds, which will perch in the foliage, may, well, basically crap out tree seedlings in it, and then you'll have to get the trees out of it. This piece is a survivor of a piece that I had to herbicide bomb for that exact reason. It's recovering. Anyway, it's also resistant to herbicide. I should put that out there. It also tolerates air pollution and salt runoff, which makes it a good plant for beach-type situations, which is always a bonus. It doesn't seem to mind hard pan soils or things like caliche, which is basically a mix of sand, rock, and calcium-type compounds or limestone that basically becomes almost as hard as concrete, except it's natural, and it's compacted as hell. The flowers are edible raw. The flavor on those varies. I've never tried it, but people say they taste like this and that. I'll pass. Anyway, the seed capsule stem are edible, raw or cooked. But according to all the information I've looked up, the stems are cooked like asparagus, and that's not surprising seeing as though it's in the Asparagaceae family. And I think by stem they mean the flower stalk before the flower's open. I'm guessing. Because if you eat the stem, you're probably killing the plant otherwise. Anyway, theoretically the roots may be edible for Yucca filimentosa specifically, but there's a catch. The roots are said to contain saponins, which are mildly or hotly toxic, depending on which source you consult, to humans. Now, slow cooking can destroy them. So, you can't eat them raw, but if you bake them like a potato over the course of an hour plus, maybe. Now, I should point out that in certain Spanish restaurants, fried yucca root in lieu of potatoes is a thing. And let me tell you, the flavor is very similar. And in of that, you wouldn't know you were eating yucca root if they didn't tell you, if it were not for the fact that it's not cut the same as French fries would be. Now, I had a teacher back in Morris County College, back in frigid old Jersey. Her name was Miss Trainer, and she used to say, and I quote, "Yucca. There is never a more apt name for a plant." She was not a fan. Now, I have a neutral relationship with yucca. I think it's an okay plant. It definitely factors into what I teach about defensive landscaping. Planting things that basically make passing through difficult or terribly regrettable for those who are willing to try. You want to keep boys away from your teenage daughter's bedroom window at night? Yucca, beach rose, fire thorns, prickly pear, make sure they grow to waist high. I digress. That's my evil moment. Anyway, so that's what you need to know about yucca. Now, this one's growing in a pot and potting soil, and as you can see, it is fabulous. It was rescued because it was an offset, and actually in the spot where it was rescued, 2 sprouts have come up, so obviously I didn't get all the root. That's okay. Why should you grow yucca? Well, yucca is a structural plant that almost looks sort of like a grass at a distance. It's like a tall grass, but it actually has really pretty flowers. They're large and they're creamy white color, for lack of a better way to describe it. It's like white, but with a bit of a pinkish blush. They're pretty, and they're scented, so they're not bad on the eyes, and they're not bad on the nose. They bloom in the middle of summer, when a lot of things are stressing out, because yucca don't give to any F's. It just doesn't. And these provide nectar for, pollinators. I think hummingbirds may even go after them, I'm not entirely sure. But it's something to look at a time when things are straining and struggling. Win for you. Now, of course, obviously, yucca is a bit like cacti. You either love it or you hate it. But, honestly, if you're having trouble with soil, if you have crap soil, and you're having trouble growing things, and you got a full sun situation, yucca is easy. So is prickly pear. I mean, and they're each beautiful in their own unique way. You just have to appreciate it, and you have to wait for the magic to happen. So, that's all I have for you on Yucca filimentosa, aka Adam's Needle. If you like this episode, please hit the like button or leave a comment. If you haven't subscribed, please do. And stay tuned for our next episode. Thanks for watching, everybody.